So there's a series that I started. Let me bring this down a little bit. There's a series that I started. How's that for? Oh, that's wrong. Okay. There's a series I started over a month ago now that I knew I was still going to keep doing. And so I decided before I go to bed tonight, sure, I'll do it. Now, if anybody says he's taking too much time with his YouTube channel, I had a very nice time today at the Agri Fair, and there's a subscriber that can attest to the fact that I was there because he said he loved my channel and videos and waved on the way by. Pretty cool that happened, and that's the 18th time now that in public somebody has said something to me regarding my channel, and it is appreciated every time, but it's a big smile on my face. Now, that being said, my all-time favorite and least favorite Chicago Blackhawks. This is not the greatest Hawks. These are my favorite Hawks in my time. So you're not going to see Bobby Hull. You're not going to see Stan Mikita. You're not going to see Keith Magnuson. You're not going to see guys I didn't see play. You're also not going to see Boldyrev and Rota, who, while I love them for the Canucks, I didn't see them play for Chicago. So let's get right down to it, shall we? I try to make it so I pick one from each position. So on the left side, Al Secord. Al Secord, beast of a man, and one of my favorite players in the 80s. I really don't have anything else to say about it other than he was one of those guys who could beat you in a number of ways with his hands, whether they were balled up into fists or he was taking a shot at your net. Center. I couldn't find anybody that I'm a bigger fan of than Jonathan Toews. Why not Dennis Savard? First off, I called him Dennis. It's Denny Savard. Second, I was never a big Denny Savard fan. I just wasn't. And it's one of those arguments that I've had numerous times on this channel where it's like, if I'm not a fan of a guy, I'm just not a fan of a guy. It has nothing to do with me not liking him. It's just I like somebody else more. And in this case, it's Toews. Now, on the right side, the best pick for the right side for me is Steve Larmer. Larmer's offensive game was underrated. Because he played with Denny Savard and because he was on this crazy Iron Man streak, his actual contributions offensively were sometimes overlooked. Which is not his fault. He was a very resilient player. And he never missed a night of hockey. And one of my favorite guys for the Blackhawks. And the other thing, too, I want to mention is the Hawks were one of my favorite teams in the late 80s, early 90s. So you'll notice that there's kind of a lean towards that. On defense, I have Doug Wilson, who, it kind of goes without saying, Doug Wilson was fantastic. And Keith Brown, I believe from Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Pretty nice to see a Newfoundlander at the time getting his shot with the Blackhawks, and I'd always pulled for him for that reason. I'm half Newfoundlander myself, so seeing a Newfoundlander do well in the NHL has always been kind of cool. I always pay attention to what the Newfoundlanders are doing. And in net, this is going to surprise people, Jocelyn Thibault. I mentioned in the video I did earlier today with the top 5 best worst. I mentioned Thibault. I liked him as a goaltender. I know his run in Chicago wasn't during the team's best era. It was some pretty rough times, and I thought Thibault was good. He's in ahead of Belfour because Belfour, for me, there were just some personal things that I didn't like him for. I considered Murray Bannerman, but Bannerman, he was really streaky. And it was really hard to get behind him. And I considered Tony Esposito, but Esposito didn't play very much while I was watching hockey. So that would just be a cheap, oh look, I got another Hall of Famer on the board. So those are my favorites. Now let's get to the other one, shall we? Now it's funny, the last team I did this with was Carolina. And Carolina, I couldn't come up with anybody I really disliked over their history. Before that was Calgary. I had a few for Calgary. Before that was Buffalo. I don't know if I had. I think I maybe had one for Buffalo. Not much, if there was anybody. Boston, yeah, I had a few. Anaheim, I had a few. Arizona, I don't know that I had any. I know it was me splitting between Jets and Coyotes and that kind of thing. For Chicago, I had no problem coming up with guys I don't like. And you'll notice that I do tend to go towards the guys who were in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Adam Burish, never a fan. Just never a fan. And it's well known that I cheered for the Canucks, and the late 2000s were a really rough time when you'd see Chicago in the playoffs. And then, as if I needed another to dislike, Andrew Shaw is on the list. Yeah, oh yeah. Andrew Shaw definitely on that list. Shaw is still on that list. There's just the way he plays the game. I've never been a fan. I was a fan when he first came up, and I thought, well, maybe he's just young. That's not it anymore. I really honestly don't cheer for the guy. And another one, Dave Bolland, who has, there's been things. There was a, I'm trying to think. I think it was a signature image on the Canucks message boards where Bolland had his face kind of like rat-like. So I always thought, yeah, that works. And then he moved on to Toronto and he moved on to Florida, and he's just sort of not playing hockey now. I was never a Dave Bolland fan. That's just how it is. On the blue line, again, I had no problem coming up with two guys. Duncan Keith. I know. If you're a Blackhawks fan right now, you're like, why is Duncan Keith? I don't like Duncan Keith personally. So that's what this whole list is, and there's the Sedin thing, and that will tend to stick with people. And there's that. And then finally, also on the blue line, Chris Chelios. Yeah. There's no goaltender. You might expect Belfour, but there's no Belfour. And it's just one of those things that if you look at this team, you'll notice current player, recent player, recent player, recent player. That Hawks team that won that first Stanley Cup, I really couldn't stand them for the most part. I've changed my opinion on some of the players, and I've softened my stance with some as well. But there are those core guys that I didn't like, that I just couldn't change my mind about. And yeah, so that's them. So that's my all-time. Notice it says THG's favorite Hawks and least favorite Hawks. And that's just how it is. Trust me, once you get around to Vancouver, there will be no shortage of least favorites. That will probably end up being a very long video, and there'll probably be just as many non-favorites as favorites. So let me know your list in the section below, the comments down there. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And again, these are my favorites and least favorites. It's not best. And I think sometimes when I do these videos, people expect best. And it's not best, it's my favorites. Because if you just cheer for the guy who's just the best, that okay. But for me, I've always been more about the underdog. I was always more about the Keith Brown guy than a Duncan Keith type guy. And yeah, I even considered Tom Lysiak, and I mean Lysiak was involved in an ugly incident during his career, but for the most part, I liked him. So there were other players I considered for the like team. Let me know your picks, and I think this is going to be it for tonight. I think I'll go ahead and turn in, possibly sleep nice and late again, enjoying my weekend immensely, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And just an agri-fair notice. This is Saturday, August 5th. If you're in the area of Abbotsford and you want to have some fun, ECCW is having wrestling shows tomorrow as well as they had today, and they put on a really fun show. Thoroughly entertained by them tonight. It was great that Yvonne got the agri-fair passes, so I got to watch a free wrestling show that lasted almost an hour and a half, and it was a lot of fun. So and a smash up derby. which was also fun. That was my first. I'd never seen a smash up derby before. I was wearing my Columbus jersey too. I was so proud of it, and now it's got like rubber tire on it.
Tire dust.
So it was fun. All of that was fun. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.